I played Fallout 4 without fast travel, and it completely changed the game for me. I've spent a lot of time in the Commonwealth, but it always felt like it left something to be desired. I would unknowingly skip what is probably the best part of this game, which is its world building. There are so many distinct and interesting areas. Areas that weren't even important enough for the devs to name are full of intriguing items and stories. So how and why is it that veterans like me miss things like this? Most open world RPGs will give you some kind of fast travel system, allowing you to teleport directly to a place that you've already visited. This is great for people who don't have a lot of time. You want to spend 45 minutes of your hour and a half of playtime walking from place to place. That's totally understandable. I'll speak for myself and my past experience with games like this. As soon as I'm given the opportunity to fast travel, I will do it everywhere. Even if it's not that far of a walk, I'll teleport to a place close by and just head straight over, because it's just easier than walking. I'm happy to report if you do the same thing, we're not lazy, we're just efficient. Your brain is developed to make the most efficient decision when it comes to most things, so it just makes sense for you to fast travel because it's quicker. You probably made 20 decisions today, and you probably made the more efficient one for most of them just to speed things up. In this case, the decision that needs to be made is whether or not you want to walk to the location or take a short loading screen and just be there. For so long, I've fallen into the trap of fast travel whenever I can, and it makes the game feel more like a checklist and less like art. When you have the ability to be anywhere in the world at any point, the game starts to lose its feel of consequence. It gives you a back door to get out of any situation, because if you can make it far enough from your enemies, you can just be in a safe place. This isn't bad by any means. It just makes the game a little easier for those who choose to engage with it. For those who choose not to engage with it, there's a little bit of tension added to every situation, no matter how big or small. When approaching a fight, I have a couple things that I need to check. Do I have enough armor? Do I have enough ammo? And do I have enough room to fit all the precious loot I'm gonna get from this fight? These are things that you don't need to concern yourself with as much when you have fast travel, because you can always get to a safe location and fix those things before engaging in the fight. Another thing that comes from not having fast travel is the feeling of safety inside of major settlements. You feel truly safe inside of these hub areas because everywhere else in the wasteland, you are constantly being attacked. These places let you take a breath before you go back out into the wastes. Just because it's safe doesn't mean there isn't anything to do here. It's actually quite the opposite. So get back to work, buddy. When I can't come back in an instant, I'm prone to interact with all of the vendors. In this playthrough, I was doing a power armor run, so I would check all of their inventories to see how many fusion cores they had to keep me stocked up while I'm running around in the wastes. To add to this, places like Diamond City have a power armor station where I can make upgrades and repair my armor, which was very important before leaving because it would be a while until I came back. This feeling of maintenance and preparation added something to the game that just made it so good. I think survival mode probably does a better job of making that preparation feel more impactful, but I didn't want to go through having to eat and sleep and drink like real life, you know? Fast travel also just changes the way the game feels. If you're constantly zipping from point A to point B, you're gonna skip a ton of encounters. All those raiders that take over buildings and super mutants and gunners, you're just gonna travel right past them and not actually interact with them. Or at least that's my experience. One of my favorite encounters came from an unmarked POI called Court 35. I was just walking back to Diamond City after completing a couple quests, and I happened to walk by this gold sign that says Court 35. This was interesting to me because typically a building like this would have a marker on the map, and if it didn't, that probably meant that there's nothing desirable inside. At least that's what I used to think. Inside, I found myself taking an elevator to the top floor. Once I reached the top floor, they had these giant metal faces across the walls, almost like an Institute outpost of some sort. All of a sudden, I'm attacked by an Assaultron and a Sentry Bot at the same time. Not a huge deal, I was able to dispatch them pretty easily, but after fighting them, I noticed two identical buttons on either side of the room. After hitting them both, a bright light appears from the center of the room and reveals a new set of power armor for myself. If I was using fast travel, I would have never found this place. I would have just zipped back to Diamond City and never thought twice about it. Especially in the downtown area of Boston, it is such an enemy dense zone that it's easier to just teleport past everything than it is to fight it out or sneak through or run by, whatever you want to do. This experience has also given me a better perspective on the different zones of the map and how they all behave a little bit differently. The suburban areas, like the place that you start in, are very safe. There's a couple of raider encampments and maybe a few animals that come after you, but for the most part, you're safe in this zone. This serves as a great starting area, allowing you to get your feet wet and understand the fundamentals of the game before you get into the chaos that is downtown Boston. This zone also gives you a good idea of the scale of the game. The rolling hills and expansive landscapes really show you how big this map is. As you gain more experience, you'll begin to move south. And once you head south, you'll hit the Cambridge and Lexington areas. These areas are a little more populated, a little bit more going on. They've got different enemy types, they've got different factions hiding in them, and it's also your introduction to the Brotherhood of Steel. This area is larger in stature. Things like college campuses and churches make it feel like a more established place than the places you've been in the past. One of the most interesting places in the Cambridge area is the Cambridge Crater. The Cambridge Crater is very clearly an impact point for a nuke. One thing that I don't know if Bethesda thought about this ahead, but I think is really interesting, is that there is a heavy ghoul population inside the Cambridge area, and I think it's really cool that they also put a crater impact point. I don't know if it was intentional, but it's really cool. If you jump across the river on one of the many bridges, you'll find yourself in the most populated area, downtown Boston. While the starting area is vast, open, and relatively safe, Boston's a madhouse. The streets feel claustrophobic as you walk down these tight alleyways where you can get attacked from any of the windows above you. There are towers that pierce the sky and make the player feel weak and insignificant as they walk through this wasteland. You hear the constant sounds of gunfire as you walk through the streets of Boston. And depending on what kind of player you are, that means you're either going to run towards it or run away. One of my favorite parts of downtown Boston is its density. There are so many different things to go look at, whether it be marked or unmarked POIs inside of the streets of downtown Boston. That Court 35 place that I was talking about earlier resides amongst the rubble of what this once great city was. You get to see the different factions fight for a foothold on the city in some capacity. Most of them take over a building or a group of buildings and ward off any visitors by patrolling the outside. One of the cool things is that if you look at the surrounding areas of a building that is controlled by a certain faction, you'll see their influence. In buildings like Trinity Towers that's held by the super mutants, there's bags of viscera that are super iconic for them, and you see them in pretty much every one of the Fallout games. The Gunners are a militant group, and they set up sandbags almost as if it's a military outpost to them. The raiders in the area tend to have these disheveled wooden structures that are a little bit more impressive than I would expect raiders to be able to pull off, but it's still pretty cool. Lastly, outside of the Boston limits, you'll find the Children of Atom set up inside of places that have radiation pockets inside of them. These little details add just enough for the distinction of each of the factions and don't make them blend as much as they could. The last major zone I want to talk about is the Glowing Sea. Just hearing the name alone gives this eerie feeling of it. You're even told that people who are the most desperate won't even go and hide inside of the Glowing Sea because it's so treacherous. This part of the map was absolutely decimated by the bombs when they dropped, and is actually the point of impact that we see when we're going down the vault in the beginning of the game. I want you to close your eyes and imagine what a wasteland would look like to you, because to me, the Glowing Sea is exactly what I would picture. There are very little signs of life. There are no trees, there is no drinkable water, and the only creatures that you'll find out here are the ones tough enough to survive the radiation. This area is huge and open, allowing you to see for miles if the radiation clouds are clear. Bethesda also added this animation to the death claws, where they'll look at you from afar, but all you can see is their silhouette over the hills. I think this is a super cool addition and only adds to the ambiance of the area. I think they did a really good job with this area, but walking back and forth without fast travel from the Glowing Sea to downtown Boston was such a slog. When you're walking and you've got nothing else to do but think, this is the perfect time for reflection. Reflection not only on the actions you've already done, but the actions to come as well. To me, this is a smaller, less impactful version of what Shadow of the Colossus did with its game, but it gives Fallout the time to breathe that I think it deserves, and it's a welcome addition in my book. In this playthrough, I decided to go with the Brotherhood of Steel. The Brotherhood of Steel will eventually ask you to kill Paladin Danse. Paladin Danse is the one who brings you into the Brotherhood, so there's a moral dilemma that goes with that mission. First of all, not everyone's okay with killing him. There's a scribe who will come talk to you afterwards who is also there for your initiation, who will plead with you to see if you'll give him a fair shake before you kill him. When you have the ability to fast travel, I feel like this mission really loses its sting because you can just teleport to a location that's right next to it and kill him within 30 seconds. When you don't have fast travel and you have to walk the 7 minutes to the location that you have to go kill him, you are constantly thinking about what you are about to do and how are you going to handle it, and how is Dance going to feel about it once you get there. The morality of the situation weighs on you when there's more time to think about the action you're about to commit. When you have fast travel, it makes it feel like it's just a box you're checking off a checklist. To make this moral dilemma even worse, when you get there, Dance is basically begging you to kill him because he doesn't want to be a synth and it is against what the Brotherhood stands for. I decided to grant him his wish and put him out of his misery, and then I had another 7-minute walk back to Pridwin to think about what I just did. At this point, you're committed to the Brotherhood. Like, that is the ending you are shooting for. And you start to think to yourself, are these really the people you want to put in charge of the Commonwealth? Just killing one of their most valued people for almost no reason? If they could dispatch this guy, what's stopping them from dispatching you whenever they want? This time for reflection in between missions not only brings out the good in the game, but also allows you to dissect the bad things in the game as well. One of the things that I love about the early game of Fallout 4 is that you are always moving forward. You are always being railroaded towards something important, whether that's finding Diamond City or introducing you to factions around the wastes. Unfortunately, in the later half of the game, the faction quests start to struggle with this forward momentum. While there are a few exceptions inside these quest lines like the one I just talked about with Paladin Dance, for the most part, you're getting a lot of fetch quests. There was a string of 3 quests that sent me basically to the same location to go grab something and bring it back to the Pridwin. With fast travel, this is no big deal. I would just teleport to the location, grab my item, teleport back. But when I can't do that, I've got to walk for 40 minutes straight. 40 minutes might be an exaggeration, but I still felt frustrated by the fact that I was walking to the same area. I think the developers also knew that this was a frustrating way to progress the game because the Brotherhood of Steel actually gives you a way to fast travel without fast traveling. They give you access to these things called vertibird signal grenades. You throw them in an open field and they'll send a vertibird over to you so that you can get picked up and taken anywhere on the map that you want. This is a pretty cool concept, and I'm pretty sure they used it to mitigate the fact that they knew you were going to walk to the same location a couple times and didn't want you to be mad about it. I tried it once. It looked really cool. You hop into the gunner seat of a vertibird and you fly to whatever location that it is you asked to go to. I didn't want to use it too much because it felt like it was against the spirit of the challenge I was currently doing, but this is the first time I've interacted with it because fast travel is just better. After it was all said and done, I had walked back and forth across the Boston wasteland for about 24 hours. I never once went back to Sanctuary where this all started, and I was really happy to not take any quest from Preston Garvey. Fallout 4 without fast travel is a completely different game, and I loved it. It really highlights the best parts of the game, especially when you take the time to smell the roses every once in a while. Boston feels alive in many ways. The remnants of the past city feel very on brand for the city they're talking about. There's Irish pubs with clovers on top of them, and baseball culture is everywhere, which I love. The radiated wasteland where all these different factions are struggling for power feels very on brand for what would happen if this happened in real life. I think that everybody should give Fallout 4 a shot with no fast travel because it really changed my perspective on this. Thank you so much for watching. Please like, subscribe, and I'll catch you later.